The water in my mop bucket turned gray-brown as I wrung out the strands, watching sediments settle at the bottom. 11:45 at night. La Corona restaurant had finally emptied, leaving behind the usual debris of a Friday evening: wine-stained napkins, dropped silverware, the faint scent of expensive cigars lingering despite the no-smoking policy that clearly didn't apply to certain guests. I'd been cleaning at La Corona for 7 months now. 7 months of arriving after midnight when the dining room went dark, when the kitchen staff had already scrubbed their stations and left through the back. 7 months of being invisible, which was exactly how I preferred it. My name is Elena Vasquez, and invisibility was my greatest skill. 26 years old, undocumented, sending every spare dollar back to my mother and younger sister in Honduras. I kept my head down, did my work, and asked no questions about the men in expensive suits who occupied the private rooms upstairs, or why certain tables were always reserved, or what was in the black duffel bags that occasionally appeared in the manager's office. I didn't want to know. Knowing got people hurt. Tonight had been busier than usual. The upstairs private dining rooms had hosted some kind of celebration. I'd heard laughter, the pop of champagne corks, raised voices and what sounded like Italian and English mixed together. Now, at nearly midnight, I pushed my cart through the main dining room, methodically wiping down tables, sweeping beneath chairs, preparing to mop. Table 9 sat in the corner, partially obscured by a decorative screen. It was always Table 9. I'd learned that in my first week. Table 9 was special. Reserved. Sometimes it sat empty all evening despite the restaurant being fully booked. Sometimes men gathered there and spoke in low voices, their bodyguards positioned strategically near the exits. Tonight, Table 9 was a mess. Water glasses knocked over, soaking the white tablecloth. Someone had spilled red wine across the surface, and what looked like broken glass glittered in the pooled liquid. I sighed, pulling on my rubber gloves. This would take extra time. As I cleared the table, I noticed something strange. Beneath one of the overturned water glasses, barely visible through the spreading wetness, were words. Written on the tablecloth in what looked like ballpoint pen. The water had made the ink run slightly, but the letters were still legible. My heart stuttered. I stared at the words, my hands frozen mid-reach for a wine glass. This wasn't an accident. Someone had written this deliberately, then spilled water to partially obscure it, to make it look like nothing more than damaged linen. But why? And who was it meant for? I should have ignored it. Should have bundled up the tablecloth, thrown it in the laundry, and forgotten I'd seen anything. That's what 7 months of survival instinct screamed at me to do. Instead, I found myself looking around the empty restaurant, my pulse quickening. The message wasn't for me. But someone needed to see it. Someone important enough to understand what it meant. Before I could second-guess myself, I made a decision that would change everything. I grabbed my mop, dipped it in the bucket of soapy water, and began cleaning the floor around Table 9. But I didn't clean randomly. I wrote. The water formed words on the dark marble floor, crude but legible in the overhead lighting. Betrayal Table 9. The letters were large, impossible to miss if you looked down. They would dry within 30 minutes, disappearing without a trace. But for now, they existed. A temporary message written in mop water, preserving the warning I'd found on the tablecloth. I didn't know why I did it. Some instinct told me those words were important. That someone's life might depend on them being seen. I finished mopping quickly, bundled the stained tablecloth into my laundry cart, and moved on to the next section of dining room, my heart hammering against my ribs. What had I just done? Who was I trying to warn? And what kind of danger had I just put myself in? I was wiping down the bar 20 minutes later when I heard the footsteps. Heavy. Confident. The kind of footsteps that didn't ask permission to enter spaces. I kept my back turned, focusing on the already clean bar surface, making myself invisible through sheer force of will. Maybe whoever it was wouldn't notice me. Maybe they'd do whatever they came for and leave. Who cleaned table 9? The voice was deep, commanding, with an accent I couldn't quite place. Italian, maybe, but softened by years in America. The kind of voice that expected immediate answers. I turned slowly, keeping my eyes downcast in the submissive posture I'd perfected. A man stood in the middle of the dining room, flanked by 2 others who were clearly bodyguards. He was tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in a suit that probably cost more than I made in 6 months. Dark hair, maybe mid-30s, with the kind of face that would have been handsome if not for the cold fury radiating from every line of his body. He was staring at the floor near table 9. At my message in water. "I did, sir," I said quietly in English, my accent heavy. "I cleaned tonight." His eyes lifted to me, and the intensity of his gaze nearly made me step back. Dark eyes. Calculating. Missing nothing. "You wrote this?" Not a question. A statement. I hesitated, weighing my options. Lying would be pointless. He could check the security cameras, confirm I was the only one in the restaurant. Truth might be dangerous, but lies would be worse. "I found words on tablecloth," I said carefully. "Someone right there. Water spill on it. I thought someone should see. So I write on floor before it dry." "Why?" The single word cracked like a whip. "Because someone wanted someone to know." I raised my eyes to meet his, a flash of courage overriding my fear. Important enough to hide in water stain. Important enough to risk. Silence stretched between us. The bodyguards shifted, hands moving toward concealed weapons. I'd made a mistake. A terrible, possibly fatal mistake. Then the man's expression changed. Not softening, exactly, but recalculating. He moved closer, closing the distance between us in 3 long strides. I held my ground, though every instinct screamed at me to run. "What's your name?" he asked, his voice quieter now but no less commanding. "Elena. Elena Vasquez." "How long have you worked here, Elena?" 7 months, sir." His eyes narrowed slightly. "And in those 7 months, you've learned to keep your head down. To see nothing. To say nothing." He tilted his head, studying me like I was a puzzle he couldn't quite solve. "So why break that pattern tonight?" I swallowed hard. Because someone was brave enough to write warning. Seemed wrong to let it disappear. Something flickered across his face. Surprise, maybe. Or respect. He pulled out his phone, typed something quickly, then gestured to one of his bodyguards. "Marco. Get the security footage from the private dining room. Every angle. Everyone who was at table 9 tonight." The bodyguard nodded and disappeared up the stairs. The man turned back to me. "I'm going to ask you some questions, Elena. I need you to think very carefully before you answer. Your life may depend on your honesty." My throat went dry. "Yes, sir." "Did you see who wrote the message on the tablecloth?" "No, sir. I arrive after midnight. Restaurant already closed." "Did anyone approach you tonight? Ask you to deliver a message?" "No, sir. No one speak to me. No one ever speak to me." The truth of that statement stung more than I expected. He nodded slowly, then surprised me by pulling out a chair at the nearest table. "Sit." I hesitated. In 7 months, no one had ever invited me to sit. I was the cleaner. Invisible. Part of the furniture. "Sit," he repeated, softer this time. "Please." I sat, perching on the edge of the chair, ready to bolt if necessary. He took the seat across from me, and I realized with a start that this was probably the most expensive and dangerous conversation I'd ever had. "My name is Dante Caruso," he said. "This is my restaurant. My business." The pause before business told me everything I needed to know. "The message you found, the betrayal it warned about, could destroy everything I've built. Could get people killed. Do you understand?" I nodded, not trusting my voice. "You made a choice tonight, Elena. A dangerous choice. You could have thrown away that tablecloth, pretended you saw nothing. Instead, you preserved the message. You made sure I would see it." His eyes bored into mine. "Why?" "In Honduras," I said quietly, "my father was murdered. Someone knew it would happen. Someone could have warned him." They stayed silent. I met his gaze. I promised myself I would never be that person. The one who knows and says nothing. Dante leaned back in his chair, his expression unreadable. Silence stretched between us, broken only by the distant hum of the kitchen refrigerators and my own racing heartbeat. "You're undocumented," he said finally. Not a question. Fear spiked through me. "Sir, I..." He held up a hand. "I'm not asking to threaten you. I'm asking because I need to know how vulnerable you are. How easily you could be pressured. Hurt. Used." The implications of his words settled over me like a heavy blanket. Whoever had written that warning was in danger. And now, by preserving it, so was I. "I have no one here," I admitted. "Just my mother and sister in Honduras. I send money. They depend on it." I straightened my spine, finding courage I didn't know I possessed. But I still did right thing. Even if it costs me. Something changed in Dante's expression. The cold calculation gave way to something warmer, more human. "You have more courage than most men I know." Before I could respond, Marco returned, tablet in hand. "Boss, you need to see this." Dante stood, moving to look at the screen. I remained seated, uncertain whether I was dismissed or expected to stay. His face darkened as he watched the footage, his jaw clenching. "Son of a bitch," he muttered. "Run it back. Show me the moment at 23 minutes. Marco tapped the screen. From where I sat, I could see the grainy security footage showing well-dressed men around a table. Table 9, I realized. The private dining room upstairs. "There," Dante said, his voice tight with fury. "Watch his hand." I couldn't see the details from my position, but Dante's reaction told me everything. Someone at that table had written the warning. Someone in his inner circle had risked everything to expose a betrayal. Who was sitting across from him? Dante demanded. "Antonio, boss." "And next to him?" "Michael." Dante's voice went cold. "Deadly. My oldest friend. My brother in everything but blood." The silence that followed was suffocating. "Get everyone," Dante said quietly, the calm before a storm. "Everyone who was at that table tonight. Tell them we're having a meeting. Right now. Here." Marco hesitated. "Boss, it's almost 1 in the morning." Dante's eyes were chips of ice. Did I stutter? "No, sir." Marco pulled out his phone, already dialing. Dante turned back to me, and I saw something in his expression that made my blood run cold. Not anger directed at me, but a grief so profound it was almost physical. The betrayal of a friend. The worst kind of wound. "Elena," he said, his voice rough. "I need you to stay. I need you to tell me exactly what you saw, exactly what you did, in front of witnesses. Can you do that?" Every survival instinct I possessed screamed at me to refuse. To run. To disappear into the night and never come back. But I looked at this man, this dangerous, powerful man who was about to confront the friend who'd betrayed him, and I saw something I recognized. Pain. The kind that came from trusting the wrong person. Yes, I said. I stay. Within 30 minutes, La Corona transformed from an empty restaurant into something else entirely. Men in expensive suits began arriving, their faces grim, their bodyguards taking positions around the dining room. Some I recognized from previous nights, regulars who occupied the private rooms, who spoke in code, whose comings and goings I'd learned not to notice. I stood near the bar, making myself as small as possible while remaining visible. Dante wanted me there, but that didn't mean the others would be happy about a cleaner witnessing whatever was about to unfold. Who the fuck is she? A heavy-set man demanded, jerking his chin toward me. Dante, what's going on? Why am I here at 1 in the fucking morning? Patience, Carlo, Dante said calmly, though I could see the tension in his shoulders. Everyone will understand soon enough. More men arrived. 7 in total, plus their various bodyguards lining the walls. The dining room felt crowded now, oppressive with masculine energy and barely concealed weapons. Then 2 more men entered together, and the temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. One was young, maybe 30, with sharp features and nervous energy. He looked around the assembled group with visible confusion. Dante. What's this about? Your message said emergency. Sit down, Antonio, Dante said quietly. The other man was older, maybe mid-40s, with the kind of face that spoke of too many years and too many compromises. But his eyes were kind, warm even, as they found Dante. Brother, he said, embracing Dante with obvious affection. Whatever this is, we'll handle it together. My heart clenched. This was Michael. The best friend. The brother in everything but blood. The man who Dante believed was wearing a wire. Sit, Dante said, his voice hollow. Please. Everyone, sit. The men arranged themselves around pushed-together tables, confusion evident on most faces. Michael took the seat directly across from Dante, Antonio to his right. The same configuration I'd seen in the security footage. Dante remained standing. His eyes swept the room, lingering on each face. When they reached Michael, I saw him flinch almost imperceptibly. Gentlemen, Dante began, his voice carrying easily through the silent room. We have a problem. A betrayal in our ranks. The atmosphere shifted instantly. Hands moved toward weapons. Eyes darted between faces, everyone suddenly suspicious of everyone else. Someone, Dante continued, has been talking to the FBI. Wearing a wire. Feeding them information about our operations, our shipments, our business arrangements. Chaos erupted. Men shouting denials, accusations flying, chairs scraping back as people stood. Dante let it continue for exactly 10 seconds, then slammed his hand on the table. The crack of his palm against wood silenced the room. I know who it is, he said simply. Every eye turned to him. The silence was absolute. Dante's gaze found Michael, and I watched something break between them. Years of friendship, of loyalty, of brotherhood, shattering in the space of a heartbeat. Dante, Michael said softly, his face going pale. Brother, what are you? Show him, Dante said to Marco. The bodyguard placed the tablet on the table, the security footage already cued. Everyone leaned in to watch. I could see it now, clearer than before. Michael's hand moving, palming a pen, reaching for the tablecloth while the other's attention was directed elsewhere. Antonio saying something that made the group laugh, providing cover. Michael's hand moving quickly, writing something, then knocking over a water glass to obscure the ink. That's not, Michael started, but his voice cracked. Dante, you have to believe me. Take off your shirt, Dante said, his voice dead. Empty. What? Your shirt. Take it off. Now. Michael's face drained of all color. Brother, please. Don't call me that. Dante's roar echoed through the restaurant. Don't you dare fucking call me that. Brothers don't betray brothers. Brothers don't wear wires. Brothers don't. His voice broke, and I saw him visibly gather himself. Take off your shirt, Michael. Last chance. The room held its breath. Slowly, his hands shaking, Michael unbuttoned his shirt. As the fabric fell away, there it was, a small recording device taped to his chest, the wire running up toward his collar. The reaction was instantaneous. 3 guns appeared, pointed at Michael's head. Men shouted, some calling for his immediate execution, others demanding answers. Carlo lunged forward, but Dante's bodyguards restrained him. Through it all, Dante stood motionless, staring at the wire. At the evidence of his best friend's betrayal. How long? He asked quietly, but somehow his voice cut through the chaos. The room fell silent again. Michael's eyes filled with tears. How long, Michael? 6 months, Michael whispered. They had my daughter. Said they'd charge her with trafficking, put her away for 20 years unless I cooperated. Dante, they had Sophia. My little girl. What was I supposed to? You were supposed to come to me. Dante's fist slammed into the table. You were supposed to trust me. I would have moved heaven and earth to protect Sophia. You know that. Instead, you chose to destroy everything we built. Everyone in this room. All of us. I was trying to protect her. By selling us out. By wearing a fucking wire. How many conversations did you record, Michael? How many of our brothers are going to prison because you were too much of a coward to ask for help? Michael's face crumpled. I'm sorry. God, Dante, I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't fix this. Dante's voice was cold again. Controlled. Lethal. Sorry doesn't undo 6 months of recordings. Sorry doesn't save the men who will be arrested because of you. He turned to the assembled group. He wrote the warning. On the tablecloth. His last act of conscience, I suppose. Trying to warn me before the FBI made their move. His laugh was bitter. Even betraying us, he couldn't quite go through with it completely. Antonio spoke up, his voice shaking. The cleaning woman. She's the one who found it. All eyes turned to me. I felt pinned by their collective gaze, like a butterfly on a board. She found the message, Dante confirmed. And instead of ignoring it, instead of protecting herself by pretending she saw nothing, she made sure I would see it. She wrote it on the floor in mop water. Preserved it long enough for me to come down and read it before it dried. She could be FBI, someone suggested. How do we know? She's not FBI, Dante cut him off. She's nobody. No connections, no protection, no reason to help us. She did it because. He looked at me, something like wonder in his eyes. Because she has more honor in her little finger than most of us have in our entire bodies. My face burned under the attention. I wanted to disappear. To be invisible again. What do we do with him? Carlo demanded, jerking his head toward Michael. He's a dead man walking. No, Dante said quietly. What? I said no. Dante moved around the table until he stood directly in front of Michael. You wrote that warning. You tried, at the last minute, to make it right. That counts for something. Not much, but something. Michael looked up at him, tears streaming down his face. Dante. You're going to do exactly what I tell you, Dante said. You're going to go back to the FBI. You're going to tell them the wire malfunctioned. That you got nothing useful tonight. And then you're going to feed them false information. Carefully crafted lies that will send them chasing ghosts while we clean house and move our operations. Hope flickered in Michael's eyes. You're giving me a chance. I'm using you, Dante corrected coldly. You're a tool now, Michael. An asset. You'll do exactly what I say, when I say it, and maybe, you'll live long enough to see your daughter again. Step out of line once, give them even a hint of truth, and I'll kill Sophia myself. Do you understand? The cruelty of it made me flinch. But Michael nodded, his relief palpable despite the threat. Yes. Yes, I understand. Thank you, brother. Thank you. Don't thank me. And don't call me brother. That man died tonight. Dante turned away, his voice addressing the room. Get him out of here. Antonio, you're with him. Make sure he stays on script. Everyone else, meeting tomorrow, noon, secure location. We have a lot of work to do. The men began filing out, taking Michael with them. He looked back once, his eyes finding Dante, but Dante had already turned away. Within 5 minutes, the restaurant was empty again. Just me, Dante, and Marco. Dante stood motionless, staring at table 9. At the spot where his best friend had written a warning. Where I had preserved it in mop water. Boss, Marco said quietly. What do you want to do about the girl? Her name is Elena, Dante said without looking up. And she stays. Stays. She's not safe anymore. Anyone watching this place tonight would have seen her arriving with the others. The FBI might think she's connected to us. Michael's handlers might see her as a loose end. Finally, he turned to face me. You can't go home, Elena. I'm sorry. Your life just became very complicated. Fear and frustration warred within me. I just try to help. I don't want to be part of this. To trust me. To stay. To let me protect you. My heart hammered. This was happening too fast. This morning, I was a cleaner. Invisible. Safe in my anonymity. Now I was sitting in a mob boss's kitchen at 2 in the morning, eating an omelet he'd made with his own hands, while he promised to take care of my family. I don't understand you, I admitted. He smiled, and for the first time, it reached his eyes. Most people don't. But you, Elena Vasquez. He moved closer, until he was standing directly in front of where I sat. You understood something tonight that no one else did. You understood that sometimes the right thing is also the dangerous thing. And you did it anyway. Maybe I'm just stupid, I said, but my voice shook. No, he said softly. Not stupid. Brave. There's a difference. Marco's voice crackled over a radio. Boss, building secure. All exits monitored. Dante pulled the radio from his belt. Copy that. Stay alert. He returned his attention to me. Finish eating. Then I'll show you where you'll be staying. I forced myself to take another bite, though my appetite had vanished under the weight of everything that was happening. Dante watched me, his expression unreadable but not unkind. What you did tonight, he said after a long silence, most people in my world would call it weakness. Getting involved. Caring about a message that had nothing to do with you. They'd say you should have kept your head down. Maybe they're right, I whispered. No. They're wrong. You know what your problem is, Elena. You still have a conscience. In my world, that's rarer than diamonds. He reached out, his fingers tilting my chin up until I met his eyes. Don't lose it. No matter what happens next. Promise me you won't lose it. The intensity of his gaze, the warmth of his touch, the sheer presence of him this close, it all overwhelmed me. I nodded, unable to form words. He pulled back, the moment broken. Come on. You need rest. Tomorrow will be complicated. As I followed him out of the kitchen, leaving my empty plate behind, I couldn't shake the feeling that I just crossed a threshold I could never uncross. That the woman who'd mopped that floor and written that message in water was already gone. And the woman I was becoming. She existed in Dante Caruso's world now. God help me. The apartment above La Corona was nothing like I expected. I'd imagined something utilitarian, a safe house, sparse and temporary. Instead, Dante led me into a space that felt like a home. Warm lighting, comfortable furniture, a kitchen that was actually stocked. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, the lights of downtown glittering like fallen stars. This was mine, Dante said, reading my surprised expression. Before I bought the house in the hills. I lived here for 3 years. No one's used it since I moved out, but we keep it maintained. He moved to a closet, pulling out fresh linens. Bedroom's through there. Bathroom has everything you need. If you need clothes, tell Marco tomorrow. He'll arrange it. I stood in the middle of the living room, my cleaning supplies still downstairs, my entire life fitting into the backpack I hadn't even brought with me tonight. I have nothing, I said, the reality hitting me. My apartment, my things. Marco will have someone pack up your apartment tomorrow, Dante said calmly. Anything you want kept will be brought here. The rest will be put in storage. Your landlord will be paid through the end of your lease with a generous bonus for early termination. He paused. You'll never go back there, Elena. It's not safe. The finality of it made my knees weak. I sank onto the leather sofa, my head spinning. This is real, I whispered. This is actually happening. Dante crouched in front of me, bringing his eyes level with mine. Look at me. When I did, I saw unexpected gentleness in his expression. I know this is overwhelming. I know you're scared. But I swear to you, on my mother's grave, I will keep you safe. No one will touch you. No one will hurt you. Do you believe me? Did I? This man I'd known for mere hours. But I remembered the way he'd controlled that room full of dangerous men. The way he'd chosen mercy over vengeance for Michael, despite the betrayal cutting him to his core. The way he'd cooked for me, asked about my family, promised to care for my mother and sister. Yes, I said softly. I believe you. Something flickered in his eyes. Relief, maybe. Or something deeper. He stood, putting distance between us. Get some rest. Tomorrow, we'll talk about what comes next. He moved toward the door, then paused. Lock this behind me. 3 deadbolts. Don't open it for anyone except Marco or me. If someone else tries to get in, there's a panic button by the bed. Press it, and we'll come. I'm right below you, he said. The restaurant owner's apartment. I'm staying here tonight. Keeping watch. The knowledge that he'd be close by should have frightened me. Instead, it brought an unexpected comfort. Thank you, I said. For everything. He nodded once, then left. I locked the 3 deadbolts as instructed, then stood in the silent apartment, trying to process everything that had happened in the past 3 hours. I should have been terrified. Should have been looking for a way out, planning an escape. Instead, I found myself drawn to the windows, looking down at the quiet street below. Somewhere down there, Dante was settling in for a sleepless night, keeping watch over me. A woman he'd just met. A woman who'd done nothing more than preserve a message in mop water. But it had been enough. Enough to change both our lives irrevocably. I didn't sleep that night. Every sound made me jump, the building settling, the distant wail of sirens, footsteps in the hallway that passed without stopping. I lay in Dante's former bed, in sheets that still somehow carried the faint scent of his cologne, and stared at the ceiling. Dawn broke pink and gold over the city. I watched it from the living room windows, wrapped in a throw blanket, as the world woke up. Normal people going to normal jobs, living normal lives. I'd been one of them yesterday. Today, I was something else entirely. A knock at the door made me freeze. Elena, it's Marco. I checked the peephole before unlocking the 3 deadbolts. Marco stood there with a young woman I recognized from previous cleaning shifts, Sophia, one of the waitresses. "Morning," Marco said, his tone surprisingly gentle for a man who'd held a gun on Michael mere hours ago. "Sophia's going to take your measurements, help you order some clothes. Boss wants you comfortable." Sophia smiled at me, her expression warm and non-judgmental. "Come on, honey. Let's get you sorted." For the next hour, Sophia measured me, took notes on my preferences, and chattered about brands and styles I'd never heard of. She was kind, treating me like a friend rather than an obligation. "You're the one who saved Dante, aren't you?" she asked as she packed up her measuring tape. "The whole staff is talking about it. About how you found the betrayal message." "I just did what seemed right," I said uncomfortably. "Well, you've got protection now," Sophia said, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Dante Caruso doesn't forget his debts. And from what I hear, he's taken a personal interest in your safety." She winked. "That man doesn't do personal interest, honey. Not in the 5 years I've worked here. You must have made quite an impression." Before I could respond, Marco appeared in the doorway. "Sophia, the boss needs you downstairs." "Elena, you've got a visitor." My heart jumped. "Who?" "See for yourself." A moment later, Dante entered, looking impossibly fresh despite the sleepless night I knew he'd had. He carried a bag from a local bakery and 2 coffee cups. "Breakfast," he said simply, setting them on the kitchen counter. "We need to talk." Sophia and Marco discreetly withdrew, closing the door behind them. I moved to the counter, accepting the coffee cup Dante handed me. The warmth felt good against my cold hands. "How did you sleep?" he asked. "I didn't." He nodded as if he'd expected that. "Neither did I. Spent most of the night making arrangements." "Arrangements?" "For you. For your family." He pulled out a folder, sliding it across the counter. Inside is information about a medical facility in Tegucigalpa. One of the best in Central America. Your mother has an appointment there next week, all expenses paid. They specialize in diabetes and cardiac care. My hands trembled as I opened the folder. "Dante, I can't." "Yes, you can. It's already done." He pulled out a second folder. "This is for your sister. Full scholarship to the university. Housing, books, everything covered. She can study whatever she wants." Tears blurred my vision. "Why? Why would you do this?" "Because you're under my protection now. And in my world, that means something." He moved closer, his voice softening. "Because you have a conscience, Elena. Because you could have looked away, and you didn't. Because when you could have chosen safety, you chose courage." I set down the coffee cup before I dropped it. "I don't understand you. Last night, you threatened to kill Michael's daughter. This morning, you're paying for my mother's medical care. Which one is the real you?" "Both," he said without hesitation. "I'm a man who keeps his word, for promises and threats. Michael betrayed us. He gets used as a tool now, and the threat against his daughter keeps him in line. You helped us. You get protected, and your family gets cared for. It's simple. Nothing about this is simple, I whispered. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. No. It's not. He pulled out his phone, checking a message. I have a meeting in an hour. Strategy session about the FBI investigation, damage control. I want you there. What? Why? Because you see things others miss. You spotted that message when anyone else would have thrown the tablecloth away. You made a split-second decision that saved us. His eyes held mine. I want that instinct in the room. I'm a cleaner, Dante. I don't know anything about your world. You know about paying attention. About noticing details. About trusting your gut. He finished his coffee in one swallow. Sometimes that's more valuable than all the experience in the world. An hour later, I found myself in a private room at La Corona, surrounded by the same men who'd filled the restaurant last night. But the atmosphere was different now. Controlled. Strategic. These were not men panicking, they were men adapting. Dante stood at the head of the table, Michael's empty chair a glaring absence. Status update, he commanded. Carlo spoke first. The warehouses are clean. Everything that could connect us has been moved or destroyed. We're 3 steps ahead of any warrants they might have. Banking? Dante asked. Another man, Luca, nodded. Offshore accounts restructured. New companies established. Even if Michael gave them our old financial trail, it leads nowhere now. Antonio, Dante's gaze shifted to the young man who'd sat next to Michael last night. How's our friend doing? Antonio's expression was grim. Not good, boss. He's falling apart. Guilt eating him alive. I'm not sure how much longer he can hold it together with the FBI. He'll hold together as long as he has to, Dante said coldly. His daughter's life depends on it. That's motivation enough. I sat quietly in the corner, listening to them dismantle months of Michael's information, rebuilding their organization like a phoenix from ashes. The efficiency was breathtaking. The ruthlessness, terrifying. Then Dante did something that shocked me. Elena, he said, drawing every eye in the room to me. You've been quiet. What are you thinking? I froze. I don't know anything about this. But you're listening. You're observing. So observe. What do you see? I looked around the table at these powerful, dangerous men. What did I see? You're all very confident, I said slowly. Very sure Michael only had 6 months of information. That you can stay ahead of what he gave them. And? Dante prompted. What if he's lying? About the 6 months. The words tumbled out before I could stop them. What if it's been longer? What if he gave them more than you think? The room went silent. Men exchanged glances. Why would he lie now? Carlo demanded. He knows what happens if he does. Because maybe he thinks the FBI can protect his daughter better than you can, I said, my voice gaining strength. Maybe he calculated that the threat against her is empty if he gives them enough to put you all in prison. Maybe the warning he wrote wasn't about informing you, it was about making you think you still had control when you don't. Dante's expression was unreadable. The other man looked skeptical, some outright hostile. Then Antonio spoke. The girl has a point, he said slowly. Michael was different these past few months. Not just the last 6. I noticed it but didn't think anything of it. He started taking random vacations, said he needed space. What if? What if he's been cooperating for over a year, Dante finished, his voice deadly quiet. What if everything we think we know is wrong? Boss, we can't assume, Luca started. We can't assume anything. Dante cut him off. He looked at me with something like respect. Elena's right. We've been operating on Michael's timeline. His confession. But he's a man trying to protect his daughter. He'll say whatever keeps her safe. He pulled out his phone. Marco, I need a full audit. Every operation Michael knew about for the past 18 months. I want to know what the FBI could have. Assume worst case scenario. He ended the call and addressed the room. We accelerate everything. Assume they have it all. Assume indictments are coming. That's paranoid, Dante, Carlo protested. That's cautious, Dante corrected. And it might save our lives. Meeting adjourned. Antonio, bring Michael in. Now. Time for a more thorough conversation. The men filed out, several casting dark glances my way. I just made their lives much more complicated. When we were alone, Dante approached me. You have good instincts. I have suspicious ones, I corrected. My ex-boyfriend taught me not to trust easy answers. Something dark flashed across his face. Your ex-boyfriend. The one you ran from. I nodded, surprised he knew. You investigated me. Of course I did. After last night, I needed to know who you were. What I found, his jaw clenched. He hurt you. Badly. He's in the past, I said, though my hands trembled slightly at the memory. Is he? Dante moved closer. Because men like that don't usually let go easily. Does he know where you are? No. I was careful. New city, new name at my apartment, cash-only rent. He can't find me. You're not living under your real name. Dante's eyes sharpened. Elena Vasquez is real. Elena Rodriguez was the woman who lived in Boston. I looked away. I left her behind when I left him. Good, Dante said firmly. Elena Rodriguez doesn't exist anymore. But Elena Vasquez. She's under my protection now. If your ex ever comes looking, he'll find me instead. The possessiveness in his voice should have alarmed me. Instead, it stirred something deep in my chest, a feeling I'd thought beaten out of me in Boston. Safety. The knowledge that someone powerful had my back. Why are you doing this? I asked. Really? It's more than just gratitude for finding that message. Dante was quiet for a long moment, his dark eyes studying me with an intensity that made my breath catch. Do you know what I saw when I looked down at that floor last night? When I saw your message in mop water. I shook my head. I saw someone who gave a damn. In a world where everyone looks out for themselves, where loyalty is currency and betrayal is expected, you, a woman with no stake in our survival, no reason to risk yourself, you went out of your way to warn me. His voice dropped lower. Do you know how rare that is, Elena? How impossibly rare. I just did what was right. Exactly. He reached out, his fingers grazing my cheek with unexpected gentleness. You did what was right when it would have been easier, safer, to do nothing. That's not nothing to me. That's everything. My heart hammered against my ribs. Dante. A sharp knock interrupted us. Marco entered, his expression grim. Boss, we've got a problem. Michael's gone. Dante's demeanor changed instantly, the gentleman vanishing behind cold calculation. What do you mean, gone? Antonio went to his safe house. Place was empty. Looks like he cleared out in a hurry. Left his phone, his wallet, anything we could trace. His daughter. Also gone. Her college roommate says she left yesterday, said it was a family emergency. Dante's curse was vicious and creative. He ran. The bastard actually ran. That warning wasn't conscience, it was him cutting ties before disappearing. The FBI could have pulled him, Lucas suggested, appearing in the doorway behind Marco. Witness protection. Then why warn us at all? Dante demanded. Why write that message? He turned to me. Elena, think. Last night, why would Michael write that warning if he was planning to run? I considered it, remembering the security footage, Michael's furtive movements. What if he wasn't planning to run then? What if something changed between dinner and this morning? The meeting, Dante said suddenly. Last night, when I confronted him, he saw how quickly we mobilized. How efficiently we started covering tracks. He slammed his fist on the table. He realized we could beat this. That his daughter might not be safer with the FBI after all. So he panicked and ran. Where would he go? Marco asked. Mexico, Dante said immediately. His ex-wife's family has property there. Somewhere in Oaxaca. He mentioned it once, years ago. He was already pulling out his phone. Get our people on it. Quietly. If we move too fast, we'll spook him further. The men dispersed to execute his orders, leaving Dante and me alone again. He stood at the window, his posture tense. You were right, he said without turning. About not trusting his timeline. If you hadn't questioned it, we might have walked straight into a trap. I wasn't trying to. I know. That's what makes it valuable. He turned to face me. Elena, I need to ask you something. And I need complete honesty. Okay. Are you afraid of me? The question surprised me. I studied him, this powerful, dangerous man who commanded fear and respect in equal measure. Who could order deaths without hesitation, who operated in shadows and violence. But I also saw the man who'd cooked me an omelette at 2 in the morning. Who'd arranged medical care for a mother he'd never met. Who'd looked at his best friend's betrayal with heartbreak before fury. Sometimes, I admitted. Of what you could do. What you're capable of. But not of who you are. Does that make sense? Something shifted in his expression. More than you know. He moved closer. I'm going to tell you something I've never told anyone outside my inner circle. Can I trust you? Yes. Michael wasn't wrong to be afraid. The FBI has been building a case against me for 3 years. They've gotten close before, but we've always stayed ahead. With Michael's cooperation, they probably have enough now. The question isn't if indictments are coming, but when. My stomach dropped. What does that mean? It means in the next few weeks, there's going to be a reckoning. Arrests, trials, possibly prison for some of us. His eyes held mine. It means things are going to get very dangerous, very quickly. And you're caught in the middle now. Because I helped you. Because you helped me, he confirmed. The FBI will want to question you. Use you to get to me. They'll offer you deals, make threats, try to turn you into what Michael was. I would never. I know. His certainty warmed me even as his words terrified me. But they'll try anyway. Which means I need to make a decision. What decision? Whether to send you away now, set you up somewhere safe, far from all this, or keep you close where I can protect you directly. My heart stuttered. What do you want to do? What I want, he said, his voice dropping to barely above a whisper, is to keep you here. To see you every day, to know you're safe because you're with me. He stepped closer, close enough that I could feel the warmth radiating from his body. But what I want might not be what's best for you. Don't I get a say in this? A slight smile touched his lips. Of course. So tell me, Elena. Do you want to run? I'll give you a new identity, money, everything you need. You'll never hear from me again. You'll be safe. And if I stay? If you stay, your life will never be normal again. You'll be part of my world. All the danger and darkness that comes with it. The late nights, the constant security, the knowledge that people want to hurt me and anyone I care about. His hand came up to cup my face. But you'll also have my protection. My resources. And, if you want it, my company. I should have chosen to run. Any rational person would have. But I'd stopped being rational the moment I wrote that message in mop water. The moment I chose to help a stranger instead of protecting myself. I'll stay, I whispered. The relief that flashed across his face was profound. Are you sure? No. But I'm doing it anyway. He laughed, the sound rich and genuine. Honest to the end. That's what he stopped himself, but I heard what he didn't say. That's what I love about you. Too soon. Too fast. Too impossible. But they're nonetheless, hanging in the air between us like electricity before a storm. Come on, he said, his voice rougher than before. I want to show you something. He led me downstairs, past the restaurant's kitchen, down a corridor I'd never noticed during my cleaning shifts. At the end was a heavy steel door with a keypad. Dante entered a code, and the door swung open to reveal an elevator. Where are we going? I asked as we descended. My real office. The elevator opened onto a space that looked like it belonged in a corporate high-rise, not beneath a restaurant. Glass walls, modern furniture, multiple computer stations manned by young people who looked up as we entered, then quickly looked away. This is Command Central, Dante explained. Every business I run, legitimate or otherwise, is coordinated from here. Financial tracking, shipment monitoring, communications. He guided me past workstations to a private office at the rear. Inside, the walls were covered with screens showing security feeds, financial data, maps with marked locations. It was overwhelming. Why are you showing me this? I asked. Because if you're staying, you need to understand what you're part of. No illusions. No surprises. He pointed to one screen showing shipping routes. This is how we move merchandise. Containers hidden among legitimate goods. Custom officials who look the other way because we pay them well. Another screen showing financial transfers. Money laundering through shell companies and offshore accounts. You're confessing to crimes. I'm showing you the truth. He turned to me. I'm not a good man, Elena. I've done things that would make you sick if you knew the details. I've hurt people who betrayed me, destroyed businesses that got in my way, paid off officials and broken more laws than I can count. Why are you telling me this? Because I need you to know what you're choosing. Who you're choosing. His voice was steady, unflinching. I won't lie to you. I won't pretend to be something I'm not. If you stay with me, you stay with all of this. The good and the very, very bad. I looked at the screens, at the evidence of criminal enterprise displayed so openly. This should have been my wake-up call. My moment to run. Instead, I thought about my mother, dying slowly because she couldn't afford proper medical care. My sister, brilliant but trapped by poverty. Myself, working 3 jobs in Boston before my ex's violence drove me away, invisible and alone in New York. The law had never protected us. The system had never cared. We'd survived in the cracks, just trying to stay alive. I'm not naive, I said quietly. I know you're not a good man by society's standards. But you've done more for my family in one day than the good people ever did in 26 years. You've kept your promises to me. You've been honest when you could have lied. I met his eyes. Maybe I don't need a good man. Maybe I need a real one. The kiss took me by surprise. One moment we were standing apart, the next his hand was in my hair, his lips on mine, and every rational thought fled my mind. He kissed like he did everything else, with complete focus, absolute certainty, consuming intensity. When we broke apart, we were both breathing hard. "I'm sorry," he said, though he didn't sound sorry. "I shouldn't have." "Don't apologize." I grabbed his shirt, pulling him back. "Don't you dare apologize." This time when we kissed, I kissed him back with equal fervor. All the fear and adrenaline and confusion of the past 24 hours transmuted into this, his hands on my waist, my fingers in his hair, the solid reality of his body against mine. We might have stayed like that indefinitely if not for the sharp knock on the office door. "Boss," Marco's voice called. We found Michael. Dante pulled away reluctantly, his forehead resting against mine for a brief moment before he stepped back, professional mask sliding into place. "Come in." Marco entered, carefully not looking at how disheveled we both were. "He's in Mexico, just like you thought." "Oaxaca. Our contact there spotted him and his daughter checking into a hotel an hour ago." "Good." Dante's voice was cold again. "Business. Maintain surveillance. I want to know every move he makes, every person he talks to." "Are we bringing him back?" "Not yet." Dante considered. "He's more valuable as a known variable than a recovered asset. If we grab him now, the FBI knows we're onto him. Better to watch and see what he does. Who he contacts." Marco nodded and left. Dante turned back to me, some of the warmth returning to his eyes. "I have to deal with this. But tonight," he cupped my face. "Tonight, we'll talk. Really talk. About what this means, what you want, what we're doing." "Okay. Marco will stay with you. You're not to leave this building without him or me." "Understood." I nodded, accepting the reality of my new life. Protected. Guarded. Valued. As Dante left to handle his crisis, I stood in his underground office, surrounded by evidence of his criminal empire, and realized something that should have terrified me. I didn't want to leave. Not this building. Not this world. Not him. God help me, I was falling for Dante Caruso. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you loved this story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.